Is the prototype actually able to bring dead toys back to life? It's an interesting question, one that might explain how past antagonists who were seemingly defeated could return in the future. After hours of digging through the many clues revealed in Chapter 4, I believe I've found the answer to this mystery. Let's go over all the evidence that supports this theory while also considering any details that might contradict the idea that the prototype can bring others back to life. By doing this, we can form a more complete conclusion. After that, we'll explore why the prototype would even be interested in resurrecting these toys in the first place. First, it's important to recognize that the prototype is a super intelligent entity, something the game has proven multiple times. However, intelligence alone isn't enough to confirm this theory. That said, a newly discovered VHS tape in Chapter 4, which takes place sometime after the Hour of Joy, might hold some key answers. This tape reveals that the prototype kept the Doctor alive purely for his knowledge that could help with a mysterious project the prototype was working on.
I'm still your best shot at cracking that secret. If I weren't, you would have already killed me.
Now, one possibility is that this project is directly linked to the various toys we've encountered and ultimately defeated during our time in Playtime Co.
What have you done? You make me part of him!
If you didn't catch it, Mommy Longlegs ominously mentions that she'll become part of him right before the prototype drags away her remains, the same fate of Catnap in Chapter 3. Additionally, there's Catnap's eerie shrine, which appears to be a makeshift statue of the prototype and is covered in parts of deceased toys. All of this strongly suggests that the prototype is using these remains to add on to himself, possibly growing stronger by assimilating different pieces. So the Chapter 4 VHS tape may actually tie into this process. However, there's another angle we need to consider. Before the Doctor was turned into an experiment himself, he was the one responsible for creating these experiments, these giant toys we've encountered. And when we take a closer look at his ultimate goals, his true intentions start to become much clearer.
Mortality is the curse of the weak.
Given that the Doctor was a scientist dedicated to uncovering the secrets of eternal life, it wouldn't make perfect sense for the prototype's mysterious project to be focused on reviving dead toys, given he was relying on the Doctor's knowledge to achieve it. However, there's still no clear confirmation that the prototype was ever successful in bringing his project to fruition anyway, meaning we need to dig deeper for more clues. One key piece of evidence can be found in Elliot Ludwig's office during Chapter 2. A note there mentions that poppy flowers may possess what he describes as life-altering properties. Ludwig even went so far as to create a gel from these flowers and tested it in an experiment to see if it could revive a dead rat. The experiment ultimately failed, but the mere fact that the game presents this idea of poppies having special properties seems intentional, like it's hinting at something bigger. This concept aligns with another important detail, the red smoke that filled the playcare every night, which the orphans inhaled to fall asleep before undergoing their transformation into toys. Given its color, this gas was likely created from poppy flowers, possibly playing a crucial role in the experimentation process. And there's yet another significant connection. At the end of Chapter 4, we pass through an area full to the brim of poppies. And where exactly is this field of flowers located? Right outside the entrance to the lab, the very place that the prototype apparently lives.
They're below, in the labs. The prototype's home. They are alive, but sleeping.
If poppy flowers were ultimately proven by Ludwig or the scientists to play a role in reviving the dead, then it would make perfect sense to store a supply of them right outside the experimentation area. This would allow easy access for any future attempts at resurrection, and with these flowers now at the prototype's disposal, it's entirely possible that he's using them in some way to bring the experiments back to life. A prime example of this could be Huggy Wuggy, who, as we learn at the end of Chapter 4, is still alive. If the prototype possesses knowledge or control over the revival process, he likely knew this all along. In fact, he didn't even seem remotely fazed when Poppy attempted to intimidate him by claiming that all of his disciples were dead, suggesting that he was aware it wasn't the case with Huggy.
The Doctor, Catnap, Mommy and Huggy, they're all dead. You have nothing now. No one. And soon, you'll have less than that.
Stop that.
You don't need to pretend
Anymore, Poppy. You don't need to play at being stronger than you are.
you can
Come home.
Now, realistically speaking, it's highly unlikely that any mortal being, such as Huggy, could have survived a massive fall on his own, and that's exactly why I believe he didn't. A Discord message from the CEO of Mob Entertainment had him comparing the prototype to Palpatine, the infamous Star Wars character who, in that series, rebuilt Darth Vader, who, in that same message, was also compared to Huggy. With this information in mind, it becomes clear why the message was deleted almost immediately. However, while this is compelling evidence, it isn't quite strong enough on its own to definitively prove that the prototype has the ability to revive toys, since there is an important distinction between repairing and resurrecting. Perhaps Huggy barely managed to cling to life after his brutal fall, only to be discovered by the prototype, who then patched him up using bandages and other means to ensure his survival. On top of that, the most recent ARG hinted at another possibility. In the email by the doctor, it was implied that Huggy was created with some sort of natural ability to restore himself if he were ever injured. Now, while the doctor mistakenly refers to Huggy's experiment number as 1070 instead of 1170, it's clearly just a typo, as the question he was responding to directly referenced Huggy by name. This self-repairing trait may even be linked to Huggy's remarkable physical strength, something that was detailed in the orientation notebook. But regardless of whether Huggy was revived or merely repaired, one thing is certain: the prototype played a key role in his survival. Otherwise, that deleted Discord message means nothing. To top it all off, there's one final clue that strongly suggests the prototype might actually have the ability to bring dead toys back to life. Earlier we discussed the theory that he could be collecting toy corpses to add their parts to his own form, but what if that's not the case? To answer this, we need to analyze the prototype's personality. It's been stated that he orchestrated a massacre of all the Playtime Co. employees in an attempt to put an end to the experimentation, but while this might appear to be true, when looking into it deeper, it becomes apparent that the prototype probably doesn't care about the toys at all.
Prototype says we can't leave. Not now, not ever.
Not to mention, the prototype is actively letting the toys starve, and even went as far as to murder one of his most loyal followers, Catnap. Beneath his facade, it's clear he doesn't actually care about anyone. Sure, there was a time when he seemed capable of compassion, like when he sacrificed his own freedom to save orphan Theodore Graham Bell's life in 1989, but that was 16 years before the events of the game. By now, any trace of empathy appears to be long gone. Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if he orchestrated the Hour of Joy purely as a means to put an end to his own suffering, so that he could escape the endless cycle of experimentation once and for all. So, where am I going with all this? Well, according to Poppy, the orphans did survive and are now living inside the labs with the prototype. She also mentions that they're sleeping, which could very well mean that he's forcing them to inhale red smoke, just like when the factory was still operational, and much like the scientists before him, the prototype may now be using these children as test subjects, harvesting their organs to revive the dead experiments. Perhaps this is what the doctor is being kept alive for, though that part remains speculative. If the prototype is performing these experiments, his end goal might not be simple resurrection, but control. By reviving these dead toys with fresh, newly transplanted organs, their minds could be left in a state where they initially contain no negative thoughts about the prototype. If they were to forget that he turned them into these toys, that is, and we have seen experiments such as Brontoy made from employee Thomas Clark suffer from similar memory loss, so with these toys having near blank memories, it would be easy for him to manipulate them into following only him. After all, it's already clear that not all the toys before this were blindly loyal to him.
We tried to fight it. The prototype's control. I am the last.
Taking all this evidence into account, it seems highly likely that the prototype does, in some capacity, have the ability to revive dead toys. Now, if the theory we just explored isn't the actual explanation, then there's another possibility, one that paints the prototype in a slightly different light. What if, deep down, he does care about the orphans and can't bear to watch them be slaughtered in their toy bodies? If that's the case, then his act of resurrecting them might not be about manipulation or control, it could simply be his way of protecting them, ensuring they aren't lost forever. In fact, this could even explain why the prototype wants us dead so badly. Maybe, from his perspective, we're the real monster, the one responsible for wiping out the very children he's been trying to save. If that's true, then his relentless pursuit of us isn't just about power or revenge, it's about justice for all the lives we've taken. What do you think about the prototype reviving toys? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Also, check out this next video here and subscribe.